57 degrees. Some clouds tonight with a low of 44 degrees. Tomorrow, Thursday, sunny with highs in the mid to upper 60s. For anything and everything Santa Clarita Valley related, go to hometownstation.com or find us on social media. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at KHTS Radio.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Morning and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers In-Home Care and Advanced Audiology. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Jean Dorio,
on your hometown station, KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of quality of life, our first guest this morning is Mike McGrath of EP Wealth.
Hi there.
Welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
It's good to talk about wealth.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Hopefully
For the
have
new year.
Right? Yeah,
Or
yeah.
lack of it.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
So what are we going to talk about today, Mike?
Well, there's a couple of things that I know in our world has come up, which I think intersects a lot with seniors in general. One of those issues, which I'm sure you've talked about before, is just when someone needs help or long-term care in the home that's not necessarily medical, and ways to handle that and prepare for that. But more than that, I shouldn't say more, but in a broader context, would be when there are physical or cognitive issues developing, is how to handle some of the, what we would think right now would be basic functions, financial functions. Mm-hmm. So we have been put in a position circumstantially quite often where mom or dad is having cognitive issues, forgets to pay bills, pays bills twice, those kinds of things, and you're the child. So how do you not confront, but how do you address that? How do you that kind of a thing? And so we've spent a lot of time with folks more recently. We have a new program that we've started to kind of pilot called Wealth Care with WHEALTH. And we didn't invent it, but we've sort of adopted it, and we're trying to graft it into our normal financial planning function. But what is your understanding right now of who pays what bill? How often do you look at these things, whether it's your bank account or brokerage accounts or what have you? And if something were to happen, how would you like this? Now, this is a rational moment. There are no issues yet. But how would you want that to be handled by your children or trustee or that kind of a thing? And so it becomes it can be a touchy conversation. So you have to handle it delicately, and we're learning as we go. But if you handle it well, when or if those times come, at least you have a little bit of a roadmap as to how to go about it. So you don't end up in the situation where you're just in it and you're just winging it, especially as a child.
This is not an easy task.
No, it's a difficult subject.
And winging it is the right word because, so often you hear about the problems related to not just assuring that someone has written a check appropriately and on time, but writing a check as a donation.
Yeah.
Where they're draining their accounts, their nest egg for future use.
Yeah.
And that is a big problem. And knowing how much one might have to have in that nest egg in life is an unknown.
Right.
Because we don't know how long we're going to live.
Right.
But
or what our needs are going to be.
What our needs are going to be.
And those kinds of things.
When you have in terms of needs, you might have a nest egg, but what happens if there's a life-saving drug that is going to help you or your loved one?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realize that it's $100,000 a year. And you have money put away, but all of a sudden
that goes away quick at $100,000 a year.
Real
right?
quick. And, what you've relied on in your life to be able to move forward and your loved one to move forward becomes really difficult to be able to. Yeah. So, it's treading water, trying to figure out what you need to do. But, the biggest thing I think we have to think about is doing it and discussing this beforehand.
Right. And that's, again, you have to have, as an advisor in my seat, you have to have a good enough relationship with someone to touch on that.
That's
You have
very
to
true.
earn that spot.
Very true.
So it's not something you can just kind of roll out there and throw to a bunch of clients because they may not always be willing to talk about all of that. Heck, they don't even want to talk about their own kids about it, let alone you.
That's true.
So that's where we're learning as advisors. How do we go about this conversation? How do we approach it? When or if or do we or when do we bring in a child or two, especially if they're a trustee of the trust? So the context that we've been bringing in is when at EP Wealth, we start every client with a financial plan. And that is, Monte Carlo cash flow analysis, obviously looking at portfolios, what insurances are already in place, are they even necessary anymore, or what may need to be added or changed. So it's kind of a drink out of a fire hose, I suppose. So you just take it a little at a time. But in that subject, once you have an understanding of, okay, what is the estate like today? What does the trust document actually say? And some fun stories, but I had one where one guy said he hadn't reviewed the trust in a long, long time. And so we diagrammed the trust. Okay, here's where the flow of the assets go. Here's who's in charge. And the one was the successor trustee. And he says, oh, my gosh, I have to change that. And I said, well, what's wrong? He goes, oh, he's been dead for 10 years. So it might be time to update that trust.
Right,
I'm just saying.
That's what people forget to do.
Yeah,
isn't
it's,
it?
we check the
You
box,
have
you
to
throw it
look
on the
at
shelf,
this.
and then you go, right? But it needs to be reviewed.
That's right.
And I know some great local estate attorneys here that are, Johnny on the spot in terms of staying in touch with you and that sort of thing to make sure that, your interests and your desires may change, the language of certain things may change. So, but once you have kind of a grasp on that as an advisor, then you have some of the foundation to have this conversation. So, for example, let's say an oldest daughter is the trustee, and they're okay with that. Everything's fine. First question is, does she understand what being a trustee actually is? So the day you're gone, she's mourning, and then I get to be the poor soul to lay on her all the responsibilities. And she's kind of like deer in the headlights, or it could be he, doesn't matter. But so you bring in those kinds of things. Again, in that broader context, we can then say, okay, so what have you talked to mom and dad, talking to the daughter? Let's say dad starts to have some memory issues. Maybe mom hasn't really done the bills in a long time, or whatever the case might be. And they're like, oh my gosh, I've been thinking about that, Mike. I don't really know. So then maybe together we come to, mom. And again, I'm not saying they have issues at this point, but the hope is we can kind of, in a sense, nip it in the bud.
Nip it in the bud, ward it off at the pass.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So to say, at least let's discuss it. And where I'm learning is to say, if there's something super sensitive, hey, how about you guys as a family talk about that and then come back to me with whatever the conclusion was? I'm not asking for all the family's dirty laundry, so to speak, but I do want to understand it well enough so that if or when, and of course we hope it doesn't happen at all, but if or when there is an issue, at least we have some kind of method or process that we could go through to avoid, a much deeper issue.
There are going to be issues.
Yeah.
We are all aging, and the circumstances of that aging is just not going to allow us to know in advance what to do.
Yeah.
So I see in every family, every single patient, something starts to happen. It's not just memory problems or things like that. Just a fall and a fractured hip,
Right.
New medication, a heart attack. Things start to happen that you can't account for in the past as you move toward the future. But the most important thing, I think, Mike, that you're talking about is it needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
And we've had discussions on this show for years now as we've rolled into end of life. And no one wanted to talk about it when we were talking about it.
That's true.
And here we were talking about end of life, hospice, care, preventive care, but we were doing that already on this show.
Yeah.
So I think it's important now, and you're bringing out front, I think, something important that is as important as end of life, because as we move toward that, wealth care or money care or financial care is really an important aspect of a part of getting older.
Yeah, and I think the communication is the most important part, but it's also the most challenging.
Yes.
So in the sense that, and some of this might be generational, but if you go back a generation or certainly 2 generations, you just didn't talk about money with your family. That was taboo.
That's right. That's
Now,
right.
if I talk to millennials, they're pretty generally, I'm kind of stereotyping a generation here, but generally they're pretty open about it. But so there's...
Right now they are.
Right, yeah, when they don't have much, right? So do you? And I've heard. So I have a show here as well, and I interviewed a millennial that worked for us. He was an intern. It was fascinating. His family had come into some money, and we talked about that experience. And he said his parents said they didn't really talk to him about it that much. Part of the reason it was complicated, and they're all good people, and they did end up communicating well, but was they didn't want him to feel or fall into, would be a better way to put this, a lack of motivation. If he felt like, oh, well, short of, we used to call them trust babies, right? Then I don't need to go get that graduate degree and start that business and so on. And he said, but the interesting part is for me, that actually was a motivating factor of why I should do that. And so people respond differently to it in all generations. So it's kind of I guess in the strange sense, one of the things I like about what I do is everything's different. I mean, no one's the same. And how they respond to things and how they interact with things, and maybe their background was different than someone else, even a husband and wife.
Oh yes.
So it's kind of interesting to kind of find a common ground and find a way to communicate these things so we can get sort of, if you will, the job done.
There are many same things that are going on and similarities, but they just don't always go in the same direction.
Right.
And that's what we have to kind of delve into.
Right.
And it's the same with medicine. No patient is the same.
That's
I mean,
right.
People like to think that we can, put them on a conveyor belt and give medical care in a certain way, and we cannot do that. It just doesn't work, and that's what I have found, in processing and looking at my patients, assuring that they're an individual that's got a fingerprint of their own, and you treat them that way as well. And wealth and their financial care is so important. Unpredictable, but important, because I think the greatest fear that our seniors face is homelessness. They're seeing so many people that are now, and we're going to do a homeless count soon.
Really?
But and I'm going to try to be involved in that. But we don't know how many seniors are homeless now, and that's just the way the count is being taken.
Okay.
So, but there are, and in Santa Clarita, we had vowed 10 years ago, no senior would be homeless in Santa Clarita. Now
that's not the case.
Not the case.
Kind of slips away a little bit.
Slips away. So that's their fear, and that's why, in talking about this, Mike, it is so important that people understand what they need to do. The families and caregivers need to figure out what they're going to do for their loved one.
Yeah. And I would, in the start of that conversation, and to begin that, I think it's important, and this is something where I think advisors, and I'm kind of counting advisors in a very big group, including myself, but we have a tendency to want to jump quickly to the how of things. Because we've learned some things and we want to sound smart and all that, right? So we'll start going into this. Well, how you write this trust, and eyes gloss over, and we're the only ones in the room even interested. But it's to before you get there is to ask the why question. Why do you want to have this? My earlier example, this daughter be the successor trustee. What's important to you about this? Some people may not care to give an inheritance. Some people it might be the most important thing. I had a client years ago who he was a very nice man, but he's miserly almost with his money. And we run all these analyses. I mean, he literally could not spend the money that he had if he tried. And so we're giving him this wonderful news. His wife are sitting there, and we're giving this, and he's just getting more agitated. I thought, why is this, right? So again, everyone's different. So she says, knowing this is now the wife, she said, I've always wanted to give my daughter, who's a pianist, a grand piano. That would just be great. And grand pianos can cost quite a bit of money.
Oh, yes.
And he just turned, because he was in a swivel chair, I'll never forget it, and he just turned and looked at me. If looks could kill, I was dead. And I said, well, look at the time. We got to go, because his concern was wrapped up in wanting to leave an inheritance, and he'd almost lost rational thought about it because he was holding on so tight. So that became a good conversation to talk through And again,
Very
it wasn't
good.
about should I buy more large cap stocks, or it had nothing to do with that. It was more about
interesting.
kind of how he grew up, and because he came from nothing, and so it was a great story. And they did buy her the piano, by the way, and he got over it.
cool.
But but there's those questions like, well, do I give that, whatever it might be, even if it's just money, to my children today and enjoy watching that, or my grandchildren pay for college or something, or do I wait and try to give it to them later? Or if I give it to them now, what if I end up in a long-term care situation and I don't have as much money? And so those kind of conversations really start with, well, what's important to you? Why is this? What are you trying to accomplish? The how kind of falls underneath of that.
Right.
So, but it does help that conversation. And if, for example, and maybe think of it when you're talking, if my biggest concern is homelessness, then we know that's on the mind. So how do we prevent that? And we can run all the analyses in the
scenarios.
world.
That's true.
And we can say, well, here's where your risk is. Here's maybe some practical things, whether it's a reduction in your budget or a change in the allocation or whatever it might be, to try to address it. But if I don't know it's there because I didn't ask, then I'm just moving on my merry way as their advisor, and they have this anxiety about them when I'm not even catching on to.
Well, and they have to be comfortable speaking with you
True.
also. I think that's a really important key, you know.
Yeah, and again, that's earned.
That's right.
So-
Yeah, like being a doctor, you better
Right.
earn it. I mean,
Exactly.
nowadays it's not that way quite.
Yeah.
I mean, here you are ill and you're going into the emergency room and you're meeting an emergency room doctor, which you're not supposed to know all the time. But
Okay, yeah.
you would like to know the attending doctor that is admitting you,
For sure.
that you've maybe known for 5 years, 20 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
That's true.
it's a
The
reg-
system doesn't allow it, really.
The system, the conveyor belt system doesn't allow it.
Right.
So those changes are gonna, are in medicine, but in terms of our seniors hearing this conversation and saying, "Hey, I haven't thought of that. I think I need to get more information on this and a direction to go."
Yeah.
I think that would be handy for them to put that in the forefront.
Yeah, because the way I look at it, especially when you're talking about seniors, and we're, of course, defining that somewhat broadly here, but someone who's sort of built whatever they've built in terms of an estate is to understand what they want to do with it. They've already earned it. And so I always tell people when they're considering hiring us, I said, we're just an employee. This is your money. You've earned this. So I'm trying to manage
right.
it and steward it for you. And yes, I've got people that can manage money. They're CFAs, and that's what they do. But it's always yours. And so I think one of the things I've learned in recent years, and it speaks to this issue of, cognitive errors or healthcare issues and all sort of that thing, but is when you look to the next generation, or even down even further to a third or fourth generation, we know that historically, any wealth that's built, doesn't have to be Bill Gates' wealth, I just mean wealth in general, is usually gone after 3 generations. And there's one book I read, they did a study, and they went back, I think it was about 1,000 years, and they looked at different cultures and writings and things, and they said
interesting.
whether it was Chinese or Irish or anything, and they found that the same thing was true.
But it means we all get a
Interesting.
chance. All our families get a chance.
Well, but the concern
to
is
rise up to the top and then float down to the bottom again.
right. So, and I know we're gonna cut to a break, but it was a great message, I think, and it was written to advisors. But how do we help alleviate that issue? Because that's not what you want.
No.
If you've built something, and whether it's 50,000 or 50 million or whatever, you've built something, and you want to see it, go to that next generation in a positive way. How do you? And again, healthcare might take it away, which you can't really control.
No, that's
But
very true.
and again, the why, the intention. How can I at least put myself in the best position to do this? And that becomes a big concern.
It does. Now, how would someone get in touch with you if they needed some
Sure. Yeah. So
advice?
thank you. I have an email. It's just my first initial last name. So McGrath at epwealth.com. So
That's easy.
yeah. And I have a epwealth.com/Valencia too, because I have a Valencia office here. Would be a way, just website and profiles.
How
and
about with
stuff.
our seniors who just use a telephone and a ground line?
Yeah, I'll give you the number. So my direct line it's here in town, so 661, and it's 505-3162. So 505-3162.
Great.
Terrific. Terrific.
Yeah, and again, whether they want to be a client or not, if you just have questions, we love to help. So we've got a staff of people that wants to answer those questions for them.
That's terrific. Well, Mike, thanks a million for being on.
Well, gosh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That
guys.
was great. Yeah, I hadn't met you before, and I didn't know what you were all about, but now I do.
There you go.
Yes, there we go. Thanks again.
All right, guys, have a good day.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Too, thanks.
I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS.
There's a classic diner in town that combines old-fashioned dining with a hip 21st century menu. They call it trendy nostalgia. They call it Kathy's Deli. Kathy's Deli is a classic diner. Homemade jams, freshly baked breads, and even unique flavored coffee creamers made on site. Experience the fresh, new, yet old-fashioned taste of your local hometown diner. Serving traditional and unique breakfast and lunch delights every day from 7 to 3. Kathy's Deli on Lyons Avenue off Wayman Court.
Mission Valley Bank is a commercial bank in the Santa Clarita Valley that really puts the community into community banking.
At Mission Valley Bank, we strive to be a trusted advisor to our clients, and that means being an integral part of the communities we serve. We started the Give Where You Live program to help bring awareness to our nonprofit partners. We're more than just a local business bank. In fact, we're a full-service, independent commercial bank that is locally owned, community-minded, and relationship-driven. I'm Tamara Gurney, President and CEO of Mission Valley Bank, and I invite you to experience the Mission Valley Bank difference, where your success is our mission. We want to be your most valued bank.
Mission Valley Bank has been named Most Trusted Advisor Business Banker by the San Fernando Valley Business Journal 5 years in a row, and received the Business Leadership Award by the Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce, Valley Industry Association, and SCV Economic Development Corporation. Visit them at their Center Point branch location or at missionvalleybank.com. Member FDIC.
Hi, Kirk Stinson here with Plumbing by Kirk, your hometown plumber, here to let you know that it's sometimes more cost-effective to have Plumbing by Kirk fix it than to have your husband wrestle with those plumbing problems. And if you play your cards right, you might not have to let him know that we were even there. We invite you to visit our website for free plumbing advice at plumbingbykirk.com or give us a call, 263-6519. That's 263-6519.
My dad is the best plumber ever. Call Plumbing by Kirk.
Your hometown station.
Our news team at KHTS is constantly working to keep you informed. If you want the latest and greatest information on the Santa Clarita Valley, just sign up for the KHTS newsletter. SCV News delivered directly to your email inbox every weekday by 5 p.m. and a special weekend edition on Sundays. All it takes is an email address and you're set. Go to hometownstation.com to register.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS. And our guest now is the one and only Kim Wall.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Happy
An
New Year.
Happy New
alternative
Year.
medicine advocate.
Yes, that I am, Barb.
Yes.
That I am. It's about bringing the freedoms of our choice of how we want to live our life back to us, because I think I know best. It's working for me. I just look at that sick person and say, how's it working for you? So you have to get past my sexy voice today and my raspy eyes, because I've been having some of that good old New Year's emotional purging.
Yep.
And, sometimes when you change and you do things in your life, people around you don't like it. And it's part of life. And I think as we become seniors and we look at the roads that we've walked and the journeys we've taken, there's times in our life to throw the trash at the door and keep on walking, because it's not our trash to carry.
Purging is the right word.
Exactly, truly. And so my little sexy voice and my really red eyes, my girlfriend's like, put some cucumbers on it. I said, Amy, cucumbers aren't going to fix the way I look. So So, but she was there with me till, well, she was in Tennessee, and her time was about 1, 2 in the morning. But she was there, sometimes you need that,
Yes,
But again,
you do.
it's interesting listening to the gentleman talk before how how society focuses us in such weird ways, like with money and, and this and same thing, this is the way it has to be, And I think sometimes, and like I said, this show's about, I think, for me, when we talk and we share, it helps that other person go, man, I get it, when we get to be seniors sometimes and we've worked and we've done all the things that the rule book or society or they say, is going to get you there. And when we get there and the road is not exactly that road,
That's right.
it's hard not to get down. It's hard not to have that, that what did I do or looking at things in outer ways. It's just crazy how the baggage, again, financial, worry, whatever it might be. And I think the New Year is one of those times that, sometimes just sit down and be honest and be real and talk to those people around you that have that core, that grounding. Just sometimes it's like you said, as women, I don't know, Barb, I mean, you are a matriarch like I am of my family. Sometimes we carry these things and these expectations and we think, not to say that my Christmas wasn't beautiful, but I'd love to have a Christmas that I got to sit down and enjoy. You know what I mean? Because we are the matriarchs. I mean, I am of my home, and I love that of my family. I do. But it's crazy sometimes how we just get caught up in what this role should be and then the feelings and my job is to pick you up or do this. And so,
it's interesting talking about that. Russ and I used to have Christmas at our house all the time. I had massive decorations, all kinds of gorgeous things. And then when I went through that cancer thing several years ago, I thought, oh, wait a minute. It's time for me to give it up.
Reevaluate.
Yes. And since that time, my daughter has taken over. And we have it at her home.
And that's what that tradition is and that blessing is. See?
And it was so nice to sit on that couch and sit. I didn't have to do a thing.
Good.
And it was wonderful.
You deserve it.
Exactly. And that's what life should be in that. And not carrying and dragging and having to reach for this goal or whatever it might be, putting that focus on, like you said, sometimes it takes something like cancer or a death of someone or the loss of what we think is valuable or important to realize what really are our true gifts or our true blessings in our life.
That's right. It really does. And it like I said, it was such a pleasure, and it has been. And especially with Russ being in a wheelchair now, and having to be pushed around, which he hates, just hates it.
Yeah.
But that's what life has dealt him, and life has dealt us. But we take it and we deal with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it was so, and everybody was just, oh, can I get you anything, Nanny? Russ, do you want this?
Pretty cool.
That's called the
was
fruit of
wonderful.
the tree.
That's right.
See,
And
those are
this
those
was-
seeds
this
that
was
were planted.
Great-grandkids who were doing this.
That's amazing.
But they stepped up to the plate.
Exactly.
And that was the important part in our family. We have celebrated Christmas in a certain way for a long time. This Christmas, though, a week before Christmas, my nephew stepped up to the plate. He had moved to a nice home in Northridge, and he
opened
said,
his heart.
"And let's have Christmas here." And we all congregated down at his, for
that's
the
what
very first time.
And that's what it should be.
Robin and I were waited on. And we were trying to help, but no, you guys, this is our thing.
Right. Sit down.
And that's
Do as you're told.
the
Sit
blessing,
down.
exactly. And that's the blessing of the fruit. So I guess my whole thing, though, just listening to you two today and helping me in that thought process, I guess my fruit's just not quite ripe enough yet. So my kids are out, but again, and for me, my blessing, like I said, and I think part of this whole process that kind of kicked me along. So I went and stayed with my daughter in Vegas for a week and had that. My gift was, at the end of the day, I made them a meal and was showing my daughter this and that and how you can make something from nothing. And, but it was that. They'll sit down, let's get you something and do. And, and that's what it is we just need to respect each other. And it can be the person on the street corner. It can be the guy at the grocery store. It doesn't matter. We need to focus more on that. We need to focus on the love, the commonality that we all share. Because at the end of the day, don't we all want the same thing? We want the best for me. I want the best for my family, for my children, my grandchildren. I want the best for my community, what's around me, my country. I want to feel safe. I want to know that I can go out and do. But I also want to know at the end of the day that all that tax money and all the stuff I'm putting into a system is going to be there to support me and have that. If not, we need to change the system. We need to bring this United States and the American home back to the people, because it's like I said, it's just crazy how we get caught up in different directions and we lose the focus. And then you wake up one day and went, where did
What
40?
happened?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, exactly.
Well, Kim,
Where did it go?
I'm driving to a house call yesterday, and I'm on a residential street, and I have to drive up a hill, so I made a left turn up a hill, and like 5 kids were coming down the street. They were probably teenagers, but not as they were coming to the corner, and I was making my left turn. All of them were looking down at their cell phones.
Absolutely.
And not, I know that, the millennials and all the groups of kids, they're being bombarded now by, oh, you're just looking at your cell phone. Put your cell phone away, blah, 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 blah. But this was the perfect moment where I thought, that's what they're concerned about now, and they're going to step out in the street, and luckily my little Volkswagen was not going to run them over, but the fact was that they weren't paying attention.
And they were missing the moment of walking with their friends and talking.
And yakking.
Exactly.
That's right.
I mean, I said this to my son the other day. I said, it's so crazy how this little thing has taken over our relationships. You used to pick up the phone and you could hear somebody's voice and say, hey, are you okay? Or, hey, what's going on? Or you could hear... everything is, and it's so short, and you don't know intent. It's just crazy how, and my son said that. He says, Mom, he says, the other day I went to go to work, and I thought to myself, because he works for the studio, so he goes to different lots, and he thought to myself, do I know how to get there? Because the phone tells me how to get there. Phone numbers? Really? He says, I remember my wife's phone number from 12 years ago when we were dating, because I had to dial her work phone number, and he told it to me.
That's
he says,
right.
but I don't know this number or that number because this machine is, so we're losing that connection, first off, and we're putting everything, and I said, my thing is, I look at, we don't have pictures anymore. You used to have boxes of pictures you could look through. Now
It's on your cell phone.
Exactly.
No, mine
you
aren't.
used to have.
Look up photos.
I print mine all the time. Used
My
to have
granddaughter-
letters.
My granddaughter comes to the house, and I have boxes
See?
and boxes.
And
of
those are the
pictures
things that are real and
that are-
tangible.
yeah, that they're my great grandparents, my
Oh,
grandparents.
you're so blessed.
Oh,
Yeah.
and Shannon's says, Nanny, look at this. Who is this? Who is that? And she's turning them over and writing the names on them.
Oh, how awesome.
But something that really, really impressed me this Christmas time, and we had 2 Christmases because part of the family couldn't get from the
Us
East
too.
Coast. And on both occasions, I didn't have to say anything about put the cell phone away. No one had them out.
What a bless.
And I was beside myself. I didn't have to say, put it away. We talk.
Because you had your gun out, right?
I love Barb. That's from missing.
But it was.
I know what
it
you're
was
saying,
such
yes.
a pleasure not to
Exactly.
have to say, put that cell phone away.
Right.
We're here as a family to talk,
Right.
to mingle.
It's a tool, and that's that's one of the things trying to explain, even to my granddaughter, but even my own daughter. I mean, I look at it again as it's a tool. I have things to do. Thank God it wasn't around when my kids were younger and they're whatever. I couldn't
How about
even.
when we were
Oh,
younger?
even so.
Oh, it
But
would've
you see,
been
I was an
horrible.
outside kid. I didn't care about any of that stuff. I was a
Nor
get on my
I,
bike and get a ride all day. Remember, be home before the street lights are on. That was
right.
my boundary.
That's right.
I rode these hills of Santa Clarita. In fact, I was telling one of the guys the other day at one of the local stores. I played on the 14 freeway as a teenager, as a little kid when they were building it on the weekends.
I was on the 10 freeway.
See, so I mean,
Before it was built.
Exactly, and we had the ability ability to be in our own space and think and do. Okay, yeah, the world's a crazy place, and that's the part that's sad. Again, we all have the same desires. You know, these people that don't, that's sad. We have to have protection. We have to think things through. But if we were more of a community, I think we would have less of that, you know? Like we used to have this lady that lived on our street. I live on a little cul-de-sac. We call it Pleasantville, but it's called Leach Street, but Pleasantville. And the neighbor that used to live next to me, she was the eyes of our street. There was nothing that happened on our street that we did not know about. You better believe it. And, you know, we used to give it. But you know what? It was a community. And as small as that little thing was, it was a community. We have people on our streets, on my street, that are original builders from 1950. So, you know, it's that kind of a little street. There's only 12 houses. But that's what it's about. We want that same kind of thought process in the whole area. And like I said, it's just looking at that other person and say, hey, can I help you out, or what can I do for you? And having an open mind. Because I think part of it is I think as we evolve as people, there's so much information out there. We have to look at real information from real sources. But there's some information that's going to be coming to light, I think, here that's going to really rock us as Americans and as people when we realize some of the things, like you were saying, about our poison in our food, how we are being fed disease so that we are one of the sickest nations there is. And we spend 3 times more than anybody else on health care. And yet and even listen to that gentleman that was on before Mike. Like I only got a glimpse of the end of it. But the same thing saying, well, if you have any money at the end, because if your medical bills don't take it all, how sad is that? How sad is that industry just sucks you dry till there's nothing left, and then you are thrown aside. So I think, as he said, there's nothing we can do about it. I think we can, and that's why I am such an advocate at looking at your food, looking at your water, you know, things like sunshine, things like getting
overdosing, things like that.
Exactly, and then looking at things that we can use, like the CBDs. Our farm bill was passed December 13th, 2018. Hemp is now legal to grow in the United States of America. So let the research channels open. Let the people come forward without the negativity, because I will say, and this is one of the funniest things, but my grandma, who I love to death, who is such an advocate of natural things, she was so against the dope, is what she called it.
I wasn't talking about you.
Nope. She was talking about the dope. And, you know, I remember growing up, and she was so, but I understand now what she grew up in and what was done to her. And what, you bet. And where her information come from. It was the beginning of the twisting of the truth. We have it now on so many levels, it's hard to find the truth. But again, when I saw that, and I thought it was December, like I said, right at her birthday, I thought, you know what, that's why I'm an advocate now, and I want to put that voice forward and have people come to it and understand, because it can be life-changing. And there's a lot of things. Same thing with our food. If we demand it, it's not going to be in our food. The things that are in our food are so toxic, and when you get into this book, which we're going to have to get me the title, and you start to realize all the different areas around us, that's what's wrong with us today. The United States of America, our cities, our people, we're polluted. We're polluted.
We are polluted not just around us, but in us.
Exactly. And if that food that was supposed to go in with all those raw nutrients and minerals to bind to all the toxins that we're exposed to, well, if we're not getting that in, then we're not detoxifying it out, and we become a cesspool. And it just builds up, and eventually one system's going to fail. It might be, you know, it might start as eczema for this person, and this person might have asthma, but eventually it's going to progress to liver or kidney disease, because...
And what you're talking about are some autoimmune diseases
Exactly.
that we're finding more and more, and people are saying, oh, the research and doctors are better at it, but the fact is we're being more exposed to it. But I don't think we're going to get it out like we think we are, because the legislators are bought. And they're going to
that's
and they're
part of
bought
the change,
by the big companies
the big
that
pharma needs
are
to be,
polluting us to begin with. So we have to figure out how we're going to individually get away from it and purge ourselves from what's going on.
And it starts with knowing.
Of course, I'll use Trader Joe's and I'll use Whole Foods, and for some of our seniors, it gets a little expensive. And what I would
but
like,
Costco has their own organic farms,
and
they're coming. They're trying to meet the need. Our dollar is powerful if we choose.
The best part about, at least when you go to Whole Foods and the fish, which I think you just should not eat anything from the ocean, because you are in trouble. But they do go back to the source.
Right.
Supposedly,
Accountability.
there's accountability there as to where they're getting it from. Now, if they analyze fish for mercury and things like that, I'll be really, really happy. But they don't do that.
Well,
they
again,
just,
and that's
they just
what,
say it comes from this area of the
exactly.
sea, and there's no plastics or oil wells or anything near them.
But as an American, we have these establishments, the FDA, the CDC, that are supposed to have our well-being.
That aren't being paid right now.
Exactly. Well, they might not. Well, I'm sorry. In my opinion, they don't need to be paid because they've cheated us out of so much.
The upper echelon has, because they're bought.
Well, again, because they were there. That's how our money should be spent. I should have that. Well, unfortunately, Obama took that away from us, and we have no idea where our food comes from anymore. He gave us the powers to be the black label. The key is now is we just need to make sure that we just make our voices heard, however that might be. And if nothing else, I can at least own what I stick in my own mouth. I can own what I stick in my own mind. I can own what I stick into my own heart, and how I bring that back to the world. That I can own. You're right. Nothing else we own. I can't make Barb want to do it. I can't make that situation. I can passionately discuss why I think it's a great idea or what my experience is, and that's what I talk from. I talk from experience. Yes, I go to this and I read and I go to places and listen to professionals way more educated than I, but I want to bring it to that lay person because there's power in that.
And I think the individual will help to make that decision by making their own decisions because in the long run, their dollar, where they're spending their money, will make people and these businesses accountable and bring in dollars to the ones that are helping us purge our bodies as opposed to those who are trying to pollute our bodies.
Exactly.
We need to take a break. Unfortunately, this is such a great conversation. I hate to stop it, but
we have to purge
old Evil
ourselves.
Eye over here,
I know.
giving me that look.
That's all right. Keeps us in line.
Yes. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS.
Daily Imprints is the premier one-stop shop for custom embroidery, screen printing, and promotional products in the Santa Clarita Valley. Owners Joe and Dana have provided KHTS with quality embroidered company shirts for over 3 years. If it's new business cards or promotional products you need to enhance your image, Daily Imprints is the choice for you. Located on Lyons Avenue, stop by or call today, 661-678-0508.
Facey knows life gets busy. Let us go to work for you in the Santa Clarita Valley. We have 34 primary care physicians and 55 specialty doctors in 4 offices. And Facey has easy 24/7 online appointment scheduling for PCPs and PEDS with some extended hour appointments available. We are Facey Medical Group. Let us go to work for you today. For more information or to make an appointment, visit facey.com. That's FACEY.com.
You're going places, and College of the Canyons can help you get there. Registration is going on now for COC Spring Semester, which begins February 4th. Take classes in Valencia, Canyon Country, or online. Need to update your professional skills? Enroll in COC's free career skills classes, which each take only a week to complete. Visit canyons.edu/class schedule for a full list of spring classes. You're going places with College of the Canyons.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Hey there, it's Tori with your hometown station weather. Partly cloudy today. We're looking at a high of 67 degrees. Some clouds tonight with a low of 44 degrees. Tomorrow, Thursday, sunny with highs in the mid to upper 60s. For anything and everything Santa Clarita Valley related, go to hometownstation.com or find us on social media. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at KHTS Radio.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Come back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, KHTS. And we're speaking with Kim Wall, who's an alternative medicine advocate. And, you know, going back to when you were saying that you were playing where the 14 freeway is now. My kids and I used to ride our motorcycles up there on on the 14 freeway,
and that's
up there
so
on the
crazy.
hill.
Yep.
But it wasn't
And
the 14
no,
freeway.
it wasn't. No, it was a great big hill at the end of our
Sure
street.
was.
And the kids kept saying, "Come on, Mom, you can get up the hill. Come on, get on that bike and get up there." And I did.
Yeah.
And you're talking about, yay, you know, clapping.
Again, but you were outside having a conversation with your children. You were
Absolutely.
sitting down coloring. I mean, you know, in my household, I remember, like I said, when I was a young mom, it was funny, somebody brought this up the other day. I wanted to be a mom when I grew up. I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to be a nurse. And she says, it's kind of funny, you're all those things. But when I wanted to be a mom, because, you know, it's an important job. And, you know, when you look at things like that, you realize, well, this blessed, beautiful teacher that was brought to my path way back in the day had us read as one of our books called Unplugged from the TV Drug. Now, this was 35 years ago, okay? Right? This is before TV even owned us. And I read that book and I went, wow, this makes a lot of sense. Yes, we watched Sesame Street in the morning, and I had a little VHS tape that was an ABC kind of thing that I put in when I had to take my shower to get ready to go to work, because the kid would sit and watch the TV because it wasn't on all day. So when they got that on, they were thrilled between Sesame Street and this VHS tape, so I could get ready to go to work. And today we don't have that. You didn't go out and play with your kids. You're not out there, you know, doing this or that. Or even as silly as this is, I was watching this crazy show the other day on Netflix with this little Japanese lady that's like the organizer. She's harsh. Let me tell you how harsh she is, okay? Don't watch the show unless you're willing to give it in. But anyways, she talked about that simplicity and how she says, well, and the one lady asked, well, how do you get your kids to fold clothes? She says, I fold in front of them. They want to do what I'm doing.
Oh, there you go.
Right?
Well, yes, it's a
so
learning.
simple. It's a learning
process.
How did your daughter learn to throw a beautiful Christmas, Barb? She had a
She
beautiful
learned it from
example
her.
watching
Yeah,
her mom
she
at
did.
your exactly.
And
the love,
it's-
the joy of it, the whatever. You know, and that's it, is that healthy relationships and being able to communicate and not brushing garbage under the rug and letting it
That's
build up
true.
until it's a problem.
That's true. And the thing this Christmas that I enjoyed so much is we have 6 great grandkids. Wow.
What a
and
blessing.
they're from 3 up to 8.
Oh, that's creatively interesting.
And, yes, and several of them are 2 of them are 3. I think 2 of them are 5 or so. Anyway, what I did is I got each of them gifts that were learning gifts, either blocks or big maps of the world that they could take out pieces and put them back in and learn, you know. And my
gosh.
grandkids were just tickled to death because
outside the
that's what I
box.
had done. Yes.
My dad did the
Yes.
exact same thing for my granddaughter, for his great granddaughter. He sent her a box with cards and stamps. Same thing, you know. It we don't want to lose what keeps us connected as a family and as a
that's
group.
right.
And you know, I always made the comment way back in the day how the powers of be got into our families and they pushed the women out to work. And when that happened, we had a big shift in our communities where a lot of responsibility and a lot of stability and stuff was lost. And I think it's important for us as women to realize that and come back together as a community and realize how we all help each other along that journey. You know, I talk to women that are younger to me in a mentoring fashion because I'm going to tell you, I didn't earn this because this is what came out of a hair color bottle. This gray on my head is wisdom. I've been in those shoes. I've cried those tears. I've climbed that hill. Let me just share with you my experience. Oh, wow. Okay, well, I'm going to think about it from a different point of view. That's why I'm so passionate about vaccines and what we're doing. My child was damaged 35 years ago when the vaccine protocol was nothing that it is today. And there at least was accountability. Today there's nothing, and we're losing people left and right. So I have to stand up and say that because maybe you didn't hear the story, but this is a story from somebody that was in the trenches, that had a child that was damaged from vaccines, that personally had cancer, that have dealt with family members with cancer and cured them, have helped my family members and friends that have fallen and had emotional devastation emotionally to come back and be whole, because that's what I believe God put me here to do. And I'm about that temple and sharing, but also about being real. And when somebody asks you, hey, Kim, how are you doing today? I'm going to tell you right up, I ain't doing good today, but you know what? Tomorrow's going to be a better day.
Absolutely.
And that's the way, that's the way to look at anything in life, no matter where we're at. But I think sometimes as we get into our senior years, those things can creep in, and that's important for us. And that's what I wanted to bring today, was share it with somebody. Let it go, let it be gone. Fill it with something that if it's whatever brings you joy, put that in its place. Find something for you, because it's hard. And I think it is. It's kind of disappointing. I feel I've worked so hard, and the TV says my golden years are going to be this magical thing on the hill, and I'm sitting down here in the ditch. But you know what? The ditch isn't so bad. Let me tell you, for somebody whose husband works for the studios, it's such an illusion, people. Own what is real and look in the eyes of the people you love and treat them the way you want to be treated. And let's make this year a year of us all coming forward and being healthier.
Life is worth living.
Living, not just
Live
existing.
it.
And sharing and teaching and showing others how to fold clothes.
Exactly.
It's so important that we teach this generation and
how to care for themselves.
You said unplug from the TV drug. I mean and so I have uncelled from the handheld cell.
There you go.
So maybe these are the things we need to start doing.
These are just
for all
pitfalls.
of us. And for the seniors listening, they get it.
You're right.
Some of the others don't get it, but that's why we're here to share with them.
And that's why seniors are supposed to share the beautiful wisdom that comes from that old wood we all have.
You go.
Now go and fold your clothes.
There you go. Hey, this lady made me look at my clothes a whole new way.
Great, Kim. Appreciate it. Thank you so much again for being on the show.
Guys.
We are sponsored by Comfort Keepers In-Home Care and Advanced Audiology. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.
God bless.
You already know Salt Creek Grill has the best food in our